everybody. Thank you for coming in here. I hope you all managed to get a glass of wine in your hands, because we're going to have a wee treat in a minute. Normally when the microphone comes to me, I'm going to sing a Beatles song, but it's not tonight. To our dear friend and absolute gentleman, Terry Stevens. Testing? Got it. Our adopted and very proud Kiwi. He was a bigger All Black fan than many of us, and a very loud one, especially Susan. A man who gave of himself with so much energy, laughter, fun, I've heard all this before, honesty, patience, pride and generosity. That's as I saw him anyway. A very successful businessman and a true sportsman. A connoisseur of very fine wine with matching food. We admired his deep love for Susan, his love of family, and love of his very wide circle of friends. We will miss you, Terry, but you will not be forgotten. Please raise your glass of wine to Terry Stevens. Terry Stevens. Thank you very much.
Griffo.
Thank you, John. Well, it's a pleasure to say a few words about Terry's golf. If you know Terry's a... Where's the camera? Not Terry, as we know, is a golfer and a good bucket, as Graham referred to, and fits the man well. It's been a pleasure to say a few words today on behalf of Terry and Susan about Terry's golf. I had the pleasure of meeting them when they first arrived at New Zealand in the late 90s and turned up at Millbrook. Terry was very excited to be in the Wakatipu, loved the environment, and loved where Millbrook was located. Enjoyed the freedoms that the golf had back in those days. With very few people out there, you could just wander around very much as you pleased. It was a friendly, very hospitable, and a lot of great Kiwis to meet. Many of course via the hole-in-one, and the expert toasted sandwich maker that we had at the time, and social events organiser Betty Frizzell. Terry's love of golf, people and BMWs allowed us to establish a long-lasting friendship. One of Terry's desires was to work on his golf game. It did need a little work. He was a passionate golfer whilst in the US, but he never got to play a lot whilst there. So his mission on arriving in New Zealand was to knock out a few of those swing flaws that he had and become a better golfer than he was. During this time, whilst playing golf at the time when he was here, and obviously looking to build a house, making new friendships and relationships in the community, which he and Susan have done so brilliantly well and we are so grateful for. Terry, as a pupil, enjoyed the opportunity to get out on the range. In those days it was adjacent to the 14th fairway, or the 5th I think it is nowadays. Those often heading down that hole were in danger because Terry had a wicked slice. It was no surprise the man who aimed out to the left and with his feet and away to the right with his shoulders wasn't actually going to get the ball back to square all that often. But his saving grace, he was a good putter and a good chipper, Terry. Terry's dedication and desire to improve was always there. He would go home and he'd work hard on the things he'd been told. He also was able to engage the help of the US Golf Digest instructors, whose magazine derived EMA direct from the US monthly for Terry to get right into and obviously turn back up with a series of questions. And in later years the internet and YouTube became a great source of information for Terry and his exploration for being and discovering the secret to playing golf. Terry gained great enjoyment from the camaraderie, the competitiveness and the social alignment he got from golf. This was never more evident on show on Fridays Montanas, or the TFGs as they were now known as. This followed with an aftermatch in the hole-in-one. Then Susan would arrive and off to Sala, where Jennifer and Yuki and team would provide wonderful food and bold hair wines. And then, of course, it was off to the Blueboard for a rota, or one of those other drinks, before heading home, which I'm sure the Jeep operated on GPS and self-drive technology way back then. One of our great debates was the Millbrook Stroke Index. And it was with Terry's delight when he got onto the members committee, he was appointed to work with me and to review the stroke index system. This was very interesting. Of course, back in those days, we had a system where the longest hole was stroke hole 1 and the shortest hole was stroke hole 18. And this was introduced to Millbrook by Sir Bob. Of course, Terry went about sourcing all the mathematical theories being adopted globally by various golf associations to see what the best system was. The conclusion at the time, after months of research, there was no perfect system. They all had their weaknesses. Terry's time and research, however, resulted in the changes being implemented in Millbrook to the stroke index, which I'm sure today still provides lengthy cause for discussion. We would often joke about the outcome not being perfect, with a great sneer in our eyes between us and saying, yes, nothing's changed. You know? We're all different, and we all play the game differently. And of course, then after that period of time at Millbrook and enjoying many a game with Graham and Russell along our side, I headed out to Jack's Point, and then another one of the great golfing rivalries took place. This was between the teams of Terry and Graham versus Russell and Ernst, played every Tuesday over the summer. These are very intense matches, and not a lot was said, and the battle and the excitement would grow from week to week. However, the losing team had to buy the wine and the lunch. Whilst I term this a rivalry, I believe it was very one-sided onslaught, with Terry and Graham not losing a match for 2 years, with many Houdini and meltdown moments occurring on the 18th hole, to Russell and Ernst's dismay. I believe the disgruntled opponents, the providers of food and wine for Tuesdays for 2 years, decided something had to change. So the change became via let's join the hills, the desire to change their fortune. I'm sure this hot streak encouraged Terry to get involved and be successful in supporting the Wild Hair Wednesdays at the hills. Terry's companionship, his love of the game will be missed by all who had the pleasure of his company. I'm sure that many fun times, crazy moments experienced in Terry's company will be for all of us lifetimes of smiles will be brought as we remind ourselves of the great pleasure we have in his company. I wish to finish this with a short comment I received from my son when I advised him of Terry's passing. Lots of good memories playing with Terry in the Sir Bob Callaway shootout, all those left-handers beat. 20 years passed. He was a real gentleman and someone to look up to. Terry, may the drives be long and straight and the putts drop. Rest in peace, my friend. Okay, Parker.
Well, it's my great privilege to give a tribute to our wonderful friend, husband, father, brother, and for me, a beloved chairman who I had the privilege to work with. In 2009, the CEO position of the Queenstown Trails Trust came up, and Cyril Edgar, their patron, suggested I apply for the job. He told me they'd recently got a fabulous, excellent chairman. Now, I fully understood the importance of a chairman and a CEO relationship. You need to have the same focus and underlying values, and then it will be a winning team. So I was very cheeky. And I rang this American man up and I said, look, I'm thinking about applying for the job. Do you think I could have a coffee with you? Oh, yes, he said. So, I learnt again after checking out and actually bringing Eon back that he'd recently been shoulder tapped because they need somebody who is a marketer, a brander and a business person. So Terry suggested that we meet at the Hole in One and have a Pinot. Values were aligning. Luckily I got the job. And most chair, now I'm going to be very PC now, most chair people come from a professional background, like lawyers and accountants and finance people, like many of you wonderful people here. And I remember the two of us having a huge chuckle going, how's this going to work out? A marketer and an advertising person, chairman and CEO. What I did know from day one